But it's time. I think it's time, and it's sad to hear. But
do you feel your career is nearing the finish line?
I think, man, I've been in professional boxing since I was 15 years old.
Wow.
Almost 18 years in fighting in a professional.
Mm-hmm. He's a man of his word, because I remember in 2018 when he did the deal, the 5-year deal. I asked you, like, how much longer you want to fight? Is this 5-year deal done with the zone? And you said,
I think it's gonna be enough. A lot of years in boxing and accomplish a lot of things, and then I need to enjoy my life with my family and everything.
The year was 2024. In the heart of Las Vegas, under the blinding lights and the deafening roar of a sold-out arena, Canelo Alvarez stood tall, undisputed, unshaken, and triumphant. He had just put on a masterclass, dismantling the young and hungry Jamie Munguia. Cheers thundered through the venue as fans soaked in yet another dominant performance from the Mexican legend. But behind the celebration, Canelo felt something deeper: finality. This wasn't just another win. It was the win, the one that would close a monumental chapter in boxing history. For months, whispers of retirement had followed him. At 33, he wasn't considered old in boxing, but the grind had taken its toll. Years of brutal training camps, unrelenting pressure, and the wear and tear of battle were beginning to speak louder. "My body talks to me," Canelo admitted in the post-fight interview. "It tells me when it's time. Tonight, it told me." This wasn't a sudden decision. He had dropped hints before, maybe 3 or 4 more years, but it depends how I feel. There will come a day when I say it's time to dedicate myself to other things. Munguia had been the perfect final opponent, young, explosive, and eager to carve his name into history. For Canelo, it was the perfect chance to pass the torch and walk away on top. The fight itself was a clash of generations, the composure of a veteran versus the fury of youth. Munguia came out swinging, throwing wild bombs early, but Canelo remained calm and collected. "He's a young lion," Canelo said. "He comes out strong, but I knew I had to stay patient and use my ring IQ." As the rounds wore on, Canelo's timing and accuracy slowly dismantled the challenger. Then, in the later rounds, a picture-perfect counter left hook rocked the arena, a signature moment that told everyone the end was near. The final bell rang, but it felt like a formality. The judges delivered a unanimous decision. Canelo had won, clearly, definitively. It was a flawless performance and a poetic farewell. But that night wasn't just about victory, it was about legacy. Canelo had done it all: unified the super middleweight division, conquered multiple weight classes, and now exited the sport on his own terms. He had conquered the light heavyweight division and faced the best fighters of his era. "I achieved everything I set out to do," he said with quiet pride. From a kid in Guadalajara to undisputed world champion, it's a dream come true. But retirement wasn't the end. It was simply the beginning of a new chapter. Canelo, ever the sharp businessman, had already built a thriving tequila empire. Now, his focus shifted. "Boxing gave me everything," he said. "Now I want to give back. I'll focus on promoting young fighters, helping them navigate this crazy world." Tributes poured in from across the boxing universe. Fans, fighters, and legends of the sport hailed him as one of the greatest ever. "He's not just a champion," said time trainer Eddie Reynoso. "He's an inspiration. His dedication and work ethic, that's what made him different." Canelo's departure left a void in boxing, but it also brought a sense of completeness. He left on his own terms, undefeated in his final fight, with his legacy fully intact. It was a poetic conclusion to one of the sport's most remarkable careers. From a determined boy in Guadalajara to a global icon, Canelo Alvarez's story was written in sweat, sacrifice, and thudding power shots. And as the curtain closed on his legendary in-ring journey, one thing was certain: his legacy is eternal.
Hey guys, we got some breaking news as Canelo will make an important announcement about his career live on Mexican TV channel Azteca on Tuesday. Is Canelo retiring? Is Canelo going to give us his last 2-3 fights announced already? We'll find out on Tuesday. But Bud Crawford has been seen sparring undefeated super middleweight Lester Martinez. So is Canelo and Bud happening next? Now I doubt Canelo will retire. He still has probably a good 2 to 3 more fights left in him, super fights at that, to make him super money. But I really hope we get a David Benavidez fight. If Canelo retires without fighting David Benavidez, that's going to be the craziest duck of him.
He's going to announce his next fight or two. I think he's going to say that he's going to fight Terence Crawford and David Benavidez, and then he's going to retire. I don't know why I have that feeling, but I can just see Canelo fighting 1 or 2 more fights and then just riding off to the sunset. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better ending for Canelo if that's how he ended his career. So I think that's what's going to happen, but I'm really excited and curious what he's going to say tomorrow. So let me know what.
May 4th, 2024. Anticipation pulsed through the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The crowd was electric, fully aware they were on the brink of witnessing history. 2 proud Mexican warriors, Canelo Alvarez and Jamie Munguia, stood moments away from battle. This was no ordinary fight. It was a collision of generations, a war steeped in pride, passion, and national heritage. Canelo, the undisputed super middleweight champion, stood tall at 33. A seasoned master of the ring, he had heard the whispers, rumors of decline, of age creeping in. But he still reigned supreme. Opposite him stood Jamie Munguia, undefeated, 27 years old, and overflowing with fire. Hungry for greatness, he came not just to fight but to take. "This is my moment," Munguia proclaimed before the bout. "I respect Canelo, but I'm not afraid. I'm coming to take what's mine." Canelo met the noise with his trademark calm. "Some say Father Time is catching up," he admitted. "But I trained harder than ever for this. I have something to prove, to myself and to the fans." From the opening bell, Munguia erupted with energy, furious combinations, relentless pressure. He came out swinging, hoping to rattle the champion and steal momentum early. His attacks were fierce and wild. But Canelo, stoic, precise, and ice-cold, absorbed the storm. "He started strong," Canelo said afterwards. "He's young, he's got power. But I knew I had to weather the storm." And weather it he did. With calculated movement and pinpoint timing, Canelo slipped the onslaught, countering with sharp jabs and punishing body shots. What started as a brawl slowly morphed into a masterclass. Each round became a tactical chess match, and Canelo was the grandmaster. His experience began to tilt the fight in his favor. By the middle rounds, the tide had turned. Munguia's early fire began to fade, replaced by fatigue and frustration. Canelo, ever the technician, slowed the pace and picked his shots. Thudding punches to the ribs, precise counters to the head, he broke the rhythm of the younger man. "I felt him slowing down," Canelo recalled. "That's when I knew it was mine. I knew I could turn up the heat." The turning point came in the 8th round. With surgical precision, Canelo unleashed a perfect counter left hook that landed flush on Munguia's jaw. The younger fighter staggered, his eyes glassy, his legs unsteady. The crowd erupted as Canelo moved in with cold efficiency, unleashing a calculated barrage that left Munguia on the ropes. "That was the shot I was waiting for," Canelo later said, pride in his voice. It opened everything up. From there, it was a masterclass. And it was. The final rounds were pure domination. Fast, snapping jabs. Devastating hooks. Impeccable footwork. Canelo was in complete control, showcasing every weapon in his arsenal with clinical brilliance. To his credit, Munguia never stopped fighting. He showed heart, grit, and courage, but heart alone couldn't bridge the gap in experience and ring IQ. The legend had come prepared for war, and he had won it. The final bell rang. The crowd rose as one, a wave of cheers crashing through the arena. Canelo had done it again, retaining his titles with a unanimous decision in what would become his final masterpiece. "It wasn't easy," he said, his face lined with exhaustion. "Munguia is a tough competitor. I had to dig deep and leave everything in the ring." Munguia, gracious in defeat, earned the respect of the boxing world. "I came up short tonight," he admitted, his voice heavy with disappointment but firm with pride. "But I gave it my all. Canelo is a true champion. I learnt a lot from him. But this was more than just another title defense. It was a statement. Canelo silenced every doubt, every whisper of decline. He reminded the world why he belonged among the all-time greats. Then came the moment. The arena fell silent as he took the...
I know a lot of people are talking to you about your future, but you have more fights behind you than ahead of you. So have you started thinking about your legacy, your long-term legacy, and what you want that to be?
I don't know.
What do you want? You're not there yet?
I'm not thinking about that yet. So I don't know.
Mentality like that, Canelo. Why does it seem like you're not cherry picking opponents? You'll just fight anybody. What is it about you that gives you that mindset?
It's because I love boxing. That's why I love boxing. I love challenge. I love feel that adrenaline.
Yeah.
No, I feel I need to accomplish everything to be in the books of the history of boxing. That's why I'm here. So, and I love what I do.
You know, I was going to ask you about retirement. Not that you're still absolutely incredible, but you've accomplished everything. How much longer do you think you will do?
Microphone. Calm. Steady. Resolute. He announced his retirement. Gasps filled the air. Emotion hung thick. A torch had been passed, and a legend had stepped away on his own terms. But Canelo Alvarez left more than belts behind. He left a legacy, crafted with precision, heart, power, and discipline. A decade of dominance. A career written in glory. As he walked away from the ring one final time, one truth echoed louder than the cheers. Canelo Alvarez didn't just retire a champion, he retired a legend. The final bell had barely faded when the moment arrived. Standing at the center of the ring, battered, victorious, and full of emotion, Canelo Alvarez dropped a quiet bombshell. His voice, thick with feeling, carried a message no one expected to hear so soon. He was retiring from boxing. The announcement rippled through the boxing world like a thunderclap, sudden, seismic, and sobering. Fans, analysts, and fellow fighters were left in stunned silence, grappling with the reality that an era had come to a close. But for those paying attention, the signs had been there. At 33, after years of grinding wars, brutal training camps, and carrying the weight of a nation, Canelo's body had begun to speak louder than ever before. "My body talks to me," he said in his post-fight interview. "It tells me when it's time. Tonight, it told me." This was a beautiful chapter, but the book is closing. The response was immediate and overwhelming. A tidal wave of tributes poured in from every corner of the sport, honoring the man who had redefined greatness, discipline, and Mexican pride in modern boxing. "True champion," said Oscar de la Hoya, Canelo's former promoter. "You leave the sport on top, a legend for the ages." Even Floyd Mayweather Jr., his former rival and the benchmark against whom Canelo was often measured, set aside their storied history for a moment of respect. "Great career, Canelo," Mayweather tweeted. "Respect the decision to walk away at the top." Their rivalry had been fierce, but their mutual love for the sport outlasted it. Perhaps the most heartfelt message came from Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., the original Mexican boxing legend and one of Canelo's greatest inspirations. "You've carried the torch for Mexican boxing with honor," Chavez said in an emotional video. "You're an inspiration to millions. Enjoy your well-deserved retirement." No one understood the weight of national pride inside the ring more than Chavez. And his words struck deep, for fans, for fighters, and for the legacy Canelo now passed on. Outside the ring, the world paused to reflect. Analysts, writers, and fans all searched for the words to capture the scope of Canelo Alvarez's impact. "He's not just a champion," said renowned boxing writer Sergio Martinez. "He's a generational talent. A man who unified divisions, dominated eras, and redefined what it means to be a Mexican boxer." As praise poured in from across the globe, attention shifted toward the future. What came next for the man who had conquered everything? Canelo already had a flourishing business empire, most notably his thriving tequila brand and a slate of successful ventures. But his next mission wasn't just about building wealth. It was about building others. "Boxing gave me everything," Canelo said. "Now I want to give back." He announced plans to mentor and promote young fighters, to guide them through the same brutal world he once had to navigate alone. The warrior who once ruled the ring was ready to shape its future from the outside. Still, fans couldn't help but hold on to hope. When asked about a potential comeback, Canelo offered only a knowing smile. "Never say never," he said. "But for now, I'm content with this decision. Boxing will always be a part of me, but it's time for new challenges." It was just a whisper of possibility, but enough to spark dreams and speculation. Could the legend return someday? For now, only one truth mattered: Canelo Alvarez retired on his own terms. Undefeated in his final fight. No downfall. No disgrace. Just dominance. A champion who walked away with everything still intact: his pride, his power, and his place in history. It was a poetic conclusion to one of boxing's greatest journeys. The story of a boy from Guadalajara who rose to conquer the world, one precise punch at a time. As the curtain falls on his in-ring career, one fact remains clear: Canelo Alvarez didn't just retire a champion. He retired a global icon. A legacy cemented forever.
Never ran from anybody, had completely respected the sport of boxing, was an ultimate champion, and I have to tell you, one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet on the planet Earth. I mean, when people, I want to just say this real quick because I know we got.
Never say no, but right now it's not in my future. No, not right now. Maybe
it's all about legacy now.
Yeah, it's all about legacy right now. But you never know.
What do you have to do, Canelo, to be considered the greatest boxer of all time? What is that? Can you reach that level? Can you accomplish that?
Things like this, fight different. When you see in the past, the best fighter go up and down in weight class and beat all the champions, is I think nobody, right? And I try to do my best for boxing, for me, for my legacy, and keep doing that, right? Fight the best, fight the fights the people want. And
Canelo Alvarez wasn't born into boxing royalty. There were no silver spoons, no golden gloves waiting for him. His path wasn't paved, it was carved. Born in 1990 in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, Canelo's story began in a modest home, rooted in tight-knit family bonds and a restless fire that would one day shake the boxing world. His introduction to the sport came early. At just 5 years old, his older brother Rigoberto brought him into a small gym, and something ignited. "I remember being mesmerized by the movement, the power," Canelo later recalled. "There was something about boxing that just felt right to me." His first steps into the ring weren't glamorous. They were gritty. Training took place in humble gyms under the stern, watchful eyes of his father and lifelong mentor, Don Chipo Reynoso. The work was hard. The hours were long. And the dream? It often felt out of reach. "There were days I wanted to quit," Canelo admitted. "But my dad wouldn't let me. He saw something in me, something I didn't even see in myself." That belief, that unwavering foundation, became the cornerstone of one of the greatest boxing careers in history. At just 15 years old, Canelo turned professional. He wasn't just facing grown men, he was beating them. With his fiery red hair, calm demeanor, and an old-soul style in the ring, the young prodigy captured attention fast. "I was nervous, of course," he said, smiling. "But I was excited. I knew this was just the beginning." And what a beginning it was. Victory after victory, weight class after weight class, Canelo sharpened his skills, built his confidence, and chased down greatness. He collected regional titles, called out the top contenders, and dared to fight the best. "Every fight was a stepping stone," he explained. "I craved the challenge. I wanted to see how far I could really go." In 2011, at just 21 years old, he captured his first world title, the WBC Super Welterweight Championship. But it was only the start. Over the next decade, Canelo would move through 4 weight divisions, unify titles, and go toe-to-toe with the most feared names in the sport. Each fight brought new bruises, new lessons, and new triumphs. There were moments of doubt, he admitted. But I learned from every one. Each victory made me stronger. Perhaps no chapter defined him more than his legendary trilogy with Gennady GGG Golovkin, a middleweight juggernaut known for terrifying knockout power. Their rivalry became legend. The first clash with Gennady GGG Golovkin ended in controversy, a draw many believed Golovkin had won. The second was razor close, with Canelo edging out a decision in a tense, tactical war. But in 2021, the trilogy reached its conclusion. Canelo didn't just win, he dominated. Golovkin was tough, Canelo later reflected. Those fights pushed me to my absolute limit. They made me a better fighter. It was through that fire that Canelo transformed from a rising star into a global icon. He didn't just win belts. He represented a nation. He became a living embodiment of Mexican pride, resilience, and heart. He inspired millions, fighters and fans alike. "It's an incredible feeling," he said. "To know I've inspired others to chase their dreams, that's truly special." But Canelo's greatness wasn't confined to the ring. He used his platform to uplift his community, champion social causes, and pave the way for the next generation of fighters. He gave back, just as the sport had given to him. Still, through all the victories, through all the glory, he stayed grounded. He listened to his heart and, more importantly, to his body. And on May 4, 2024, after dismantling fellow Mexican contender Jamie Munguia in a clinical, career-defining performance, Canelo shocked the world. He retired. "My body talks to me," he said, emotion etched in his voice. "It tells me when it's time. Tonight, it told me." This was a beautiful chapter, but the book is closing. The announcement sent shockwaves through the sport. But it also showed the wisdom of a fighter who knew exactly when to walk away. Canelo didn't retire battered or broken. He didn't hang on too long. He left undefeated in his final fight, undisputed and untouched by decline. He walked away on top, with his legacy intact, his pride unshaken, and the respect of an entire sport. Because Canelo Alvarez is more than a record. He's a 4-division world champion, the undisputed super middleweight king, and a champion of the people. His story is a blueprint of grit, belief, and relentless ambition. From the rough gyms of Guadalajara to the brightest lights in boxing, his journey is etched in fire and history. And now, as the final bell fades and the crowd's cheers echo into memory, one thing is crystal clear: Canelo Alvarez didn't just retire a champion. He retired a symbol of what's possible. His story is forever.